Oh, man. Oh, didn't see you there. Hi, I'm Zach Viox.
I'm Brandon Meyer.
And this is Btv Nerd Night. We will be discussing how to play D&D tonight and in the future.
All kinds of stuff. Everything you can nerd out about. Anything. All things.
It's true. Pretty much anything that you can have nerd stuff about, like sports, music, D&D for the first one we're doing, games in general. We'll be having this sort of podcast bi-weekly, kind of going off of our D&D campaign, which you should totally check out on Bearcast Media YouTube. We played that last week, and it's amazing. We fight a kraken, so yeah.
Pretty sweet. Pretty sweet stuff.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
But yeah, tonight we'll be talking about D&D, which is Dungeons and Dragons, for those of you uninformed. And yeah.
We really wanted to do this in particular because, most people probably don't know how to play. And we decided that if people are watching our show, they probably want to figure out what we're doing. Makes things easier for people to follow, what actually goes in, what's roles, what are character sheets, what abilities are.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do this normally, D&D strictly. We want to do all kinds of things, and particularly the viewers. We want you guys to come up with anything, topics. Particularly, we want guests as well.
Yes, we'd like to have guests from all sorts of backgrounds that you can nerd out about, like sports in general, or music even. Anything
Science.
Science, yeah.
Yeah, all kinds of things.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, people just can come in and just nerd out about stuff, and we'll have a whole podcast discussion about.
We get easily excited.
We get very excited.
Very excited.
Yes.
Very easy.
Yes. But yeah, for tonight, we'll be sort of introducing people into D&D, because sometimes it can be totally crazy because you're like, oh, why are they rolling these dice? Someone rolled a natural 20. What does that mean? There's gods and stuff, but sometimes they're not rolling dice, but the DM decides stuff. What does a DM stand for? Ah! It can
So
get
angry.
crazy. It can get very crazy.
It's nuts.
Yes. And to start it out for you guys, we'll actually be making a character with you tonight.
Oh, boy.
So that'll be interesting for you all.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, we'll talk a bit about like how you first get into D&D, because that's the big thing for everyone is like, oh, I have no clue where to start. And there's more than just making a character. One of the biggest things is getting a group of people together that actually want to play it.
So that means step one, find some friends, you loser.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, honestly though, finding a group and also a group that consistently meets is like, you need that. Because if you don't consistently meet, then everyone's just like, yeah, we'll push it out the next week.
That's the biggest thing for most people is finding a group of people that can consistently show up, because scheduling conflicts can essentially destroy a whole game.
Yeah.
And that's just no fun. You can't play. If you want to play this awesome character, but no one ever shows up, it's the worst.
It's totally the worst. And like, you also need to understand that everyone's going to be like meeting at this specific time for this allotted amount of hours, and you got to do it.
Yeah.
But then again, it's always just about having fun, really.
Yeah.
So as long as you all like meet up and have fun, that's the gist of the game. If you want to expand your creative mind and create worlds with your friends that can just surmount places like Tolkien's universes, or
Oh yeah, big influence. Like that's what's one thing that people love about D&D though, is the story. It's like, it's not a story that you're reading a book, it's a community built thing. So the story is around you and your friends, so it can be as serious, as funny, as silly as you want. And it's just, if you're with a group of friends that share the same humor or same mindset, it can be amazing. And you really want that in a game. And it's just so fun when you're just with a group of people and you just love it and you're all in on it. It's just fucking awesome.
That's why whenever you like see people like that are playing D&D and a character dies or something huge happens to that character, they feel that emotional tug.
Yeah.
Because it's their character or their friend's character they have spent so much time building.
Yeah. And if you'll find too, on a lot of characters, it's not just like Commander Shepard or something on Mass Effect. This is a character that you built, you put your blood and your soul into it. Essentially is a part of you. And it's just really important, you'll find. And when your character dies, you're either going to be really salty, you're going to be really proud because it'll be an awesome death, or, it'll just be whatever. It really depends on who you are. So some people don't care. There's like murder hobos, for instance. And we'll go into that in the future.
Yeah.
In a little bit.
There's a lot of terms.
A lot of
that
terms
can go
we'll talk
into
about.
It, honestly. So yeah, but yeah, so getting a group is pretty much your first step. And then now you have this group and you're all like, maybe you have some people in it that like know how to play the game, some people that don't, like newbies. And really, what will help you out a lot is this book right here, the Player's Handbook, or what other people just call the PHB for short.
And you don't necessarily need to buy the book either. There's online sources. Even if you don't want to do 5e, we choose 5e because it's simple, it's fun, easy to pick up. Some people do Pathfinder, which is kind of a more complex, but it's completely free. Everything's online. You really just want to find your pick, figure out what suits you best, really. And it's just taking off from there, really.
Pretty much. The other thing that you need, kind of obviously, you always need a set of dice. Usually you'll find a set of like 9 dice for you.
Yeah.
But most importantly, this dice right here.
The D20.
This one is the D20. It's a 20-sided dice.
This is the daddy dice.
That is the dice you will roll 90% of the time.
Oh yeah.
90%.
It will kill you, it'll save you, it'll even help you seduce a dragon if you really, really do well.
Oh yeah. You can do a lot of things with that natural 20.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you'll
First
need
of
that.
all, is starting a character though.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So you got to make a character to play.
It's true. And the best part about making this character is, as Brandon said before, it's basically a part of you and you get to make that. So if you think in like a Lord of the Rings kind of setting, everyone knows Legolas, you know, he's like an elf ranger dude like shooting arrows in the distance.
You could be a human fighter.
Yeah.
You know, dwarf barbarian.
You could be a dragon person that plays a long lute that sounds metal as hell and he runs in the battle, flames blaring over him.
Hell yeah.
You can do anything you want in this game. I'm going to say that right now.
Yeah, it's up to your limitation. That's what makes it so fun. There's no set rules. Well, there are rules, but there's no boundaries. It's only bound to your limitations of your imagination.
Yes.
And that's what I love about it.
Yes.
Because it can be dumb as you want it to be. Like, you can be Goomba stomping people from rooftop to rooftop. That's happened before in one of our games. It's you can do anything really.
I forgot about that.
And it really depends on your roles too. So if it depends on your characters, but we'll go into that in a bit.
And I think that's the part where we kind of get into is you need characters and you also need a DM as well, which stands for Dungeon Master. And no, it's not that kind of Dungeon Master.
Yeah. Some people call it the Game Master too, so it's
Yeah.
not so weird. Some people call them Dungeon Daddies, but that's only if you're kind of weird.
Yeah. I don't know who calls people Dungeon Daddies, honestly.
I call you Dungeon Daddy sometimes.
Yeah, he calls me Dungeon Daddy sometimes. Anyway, usually your DM is sort of like your narrator for the world. They kind of like sit behind, they're the ones that you always see behind the screen, sort of narrating what's happening to the other players. So they're kind of like the third person, like omniscient voice in the background of, if you're thinking of this as a book.
The narrator is every villain, every NPC, any character you meet, anyone you're gonna see on the street. They're gonna be the sounds. They're gonna be the violence that happens on the battlefield. They're everything.
They're the ray of sunlight poking through the stormy clouds that shed light on the heroes. They are the mushroom-filled grotto that you find within the ancient forest. And they're even just the sound of a little kid playing some game with a dog. And
Is he throwing that dog?
I hope he's not.
I think he's throwing that dog. Regardless, though, a DM, they can be good, they can be great, they can be bad. It really depends on how much effort that DM is going to put into it, their play style. Because we're going to get on that as well. Play styles are completely different for everyone you play against. So yeah, DM is very important. You only really, if you bare minimum for D&D, you need a DM and a player. You can do one-on-one.
There's a lot of campaigns that I read it all the time online. There's like people that
Some
do
people really like it.
one-on-one campaigns, and it's so weird. But like if you think of it, and a lot of works of like modern stuff, there's only like one hero sometimes. Like there's hardly ever just like a full party.
Yeah, exactly. But I would say it's probably more fun to do with a group of friends because it's just the community aspect of it. And you're with your friends, you're hanging out, maybe you're drinking, whatever. You're having a good time.
Drinking and dragons.
Yeah, drinking and dragons. That's a good time. Good time.
Yeah.
Constantly.
And like also the thing that kind of turns people off is when you finally get that group together and everyone's like, oh, I'm going to be a player. But then it's whenever you have that first group, someone has to be the DM.
Someone's got to be the DM.
And I think a lot of people get turned off by that.
They don't want to be the center of attention.
Yeah.
They get nervous by the work you have to put in. And it's really not too bad because a lot of DMs, truthfully, they work on the fly. And if you're good, you gotta be thinking like that. But it's not too hard because usually you just go with it. And sometimes DMs will think that was horrible, but the players will go, that was the best time ever. This was awesome. You should do that again. I can't believe you planned all this. When the DM's like, I did not plan any of that. That just kind of happened. Okay, but everyone's happy, so you roll with it. So yeah, that was me.
Those are the best times is when the DM just on the fly is coming up with something like the DM has sort of like a rough skeleton of the idea for what the session's going to look like, and then the players do something, and it's out the window. Here we go. We're doing it improv now.
Yeah. We could do a whole episode on DMing.
Yes.
So we're gonna probably go past that for now.
Okay.
Because you can go long.
You could go so far into DMing.
There's so much you talk about.
But pretty much all you have to know is that someone's got to be the DM. They're your narrator, and they sort of make the world for you.
Yep. They run it. They run the things.
But most importantly, there's the characters.
Characters. You don't have a game if you don't have characters.
Yeah. It's just boring. It's just a guy sitting there by himself talking into nothingness.
Anyway.
Characters are basically what make the whole game. They're the heroes, or the villains in some cases, that end up sort of breathing life into the world. The DM sets it for them.
Sorry.
Yeah, characters are basically like the bread and butter to every campaign because obviously like they need to be there so that they can breathe life into the DM's world that he has made for you or that he has picked up from a book. Because there are books that you can run.
Exactly. Like Zach here, he makes his own games. But however, there's a whole bunch of books you can buy. So if you're the DM, you don't have to be starting from scratch. There's a whole set of worlds for you that you really almost have to just read from the book, and it's all right there. And it's pretty easy to pick up, actually.
Very easy.
There's the notorious, what is it, Lost Mines of Phandelver?
Yeah, Lost Mines of Phandelver.
That's a lot of people's first game.
Yeah, it comes with the D&D starter kit. Yep. Highly recommend, actually. It basically walks you step by step through sort of a campaign. Kind of railroads you, which railroading means it's just a straight path. There's not a lot of like free roaming for the group.
You don't have a lot of like extracurricular choices.
But there's a whole lot that you can do with that, and people have done campaigns even past that. It's just sort of like a levels 1 through 4 sort of mission that you get to do.
Yeah. You get the feel of D&D, and that's really what if you want to actually start playing. It's only like like $20? I don't know.
It's something like that. You can look it up on Amazon.
Amazon.com. Look it up.
Yeah, highly recommend. Also, you can probably find it some places. Maybe
your local game shop probably. There's plenty of comic book shops that have D&D stuff.
Yeah.
So probably honestly, choose them before Amazon.
Yeah.
So
support your small businesses.
Yeah. But how do you make a character, Zach?
Well,
that's the question.
I'm glad you asked, Brandon. When you want to make a character, first thing you need is a character sheet, right? So it's what this looks like right here. You can pick up character sheets pretty much anywhere. If you just go on Google, depends what system you're playing. For this whole sort of podcast thing, we will be talking about Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition.
Yep.
But if you're just trying to look for any character sheet for any role-playing game, you just go on the Google, just type on in blank character sheet, and you're going to get like a million results because people, including this one right here, people make their own versions of character sheets because sometimes there's different things you want in different areas, like, oh, I want this here. But that's the first thing you need. And then the next thing you need is an idea. And then after that, you fill in the blanks.
But Zach, I want to be an edgy character.
You want to be an edgy character? Sure, your group might not like you, but you can do it if you want.
I want everyone in my tragic backstory to be dead.
You want everyone in your tragic backstory to be dead. Okay.
And I want to not like my friends.
You not like your friends. Okay.
And I want to be really powerful for some reason.
Really powerful for some reason. All right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You want like long, sort of blackish hair kind of going down?
Yeah.
Is your favorite color blue?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we can work with this. This is workable. All right. So, as we said, you need an idea. With this idea, you're gonna have several options thrown to you. Let's say I want to be a huge, burly rock creature man that wields a huge great axe and swings it wildly into battle to lay woe upon my enemies. You can do that.
It's a Korg.
Wow, yeah, that really... Does Korg?
Yeah, it's Korg.
Korg uses a great axe?
He's a rock monster.
That's a fair point. You can be Korg, really. But the first place people usually start is if you don't really have an idea or you have an absurdly wild idea that's out of the blue, you should look at the races because that kind of determines you pretty well.
The races in the book, in the player's handbook, you'll find the basic races.
Yeah.
You can go online and on D&D Beyond, sponsor us. There are all kinds of other races that you can choose from, and they all have different abilities. Basically, they'll give you the initial stat increase that determines your race, because it all kind of describes how the race kind of is at a physical level.
Yeah. So like obviously if you're one of like the dragon people, they're called dragonborn in this game. No, not the Skyrim kind. They're dragon people. They're naturally stronger because they have dragon blood, and through their dragon blood and the sheer willpower of dragons and the worlds, they also have a boost to charisma.
Yeah, which is like their natural magic essentially.
Yeah. And these are all ability scores. And ability scores are basically what determine the basis of your character. They're like the foundation of it.
Yeah. So like your physical aspects, your mental aspects, and that's pretty much it for the most part.
Yeah.
All 6 of them are strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma.
Yeah. And each of them basically kind of says itself. Strength is how burly you are, how much you can lift. Constitution is how hardy you can be. Dexterity is how swift you can move around. Intelligence is just how sneeringly intellect you are. Wisdom is basically kind of like your survival instinct nature.
Yeah, a little bit of street smarts.
Yeah, street smarts too.
Telling if someone's pulling the wool over your eyes a little bit.
Yeah. And then charisma is just how suave you are.
In some aspects of the game too, charisma is also like kind of a natural magic kind of source for someone.
Yeah.
So like sorcerer, their main thing is magic through their charisma.
Yeah.
Same with bards.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think probably something else, but I don't remember.
I think that's it, really.
And warlock.
Warlock, you're
Warlock
right.
is-
Yeah. Because
sneaky.
charisma can also be like your willpower.
Yeah.
Like how I project myself in the world and how persuasive I am over like everything, not just like social interactions, but also like magic and such.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, a great place to start is a race, because a race determines all that for you. It increases your ability scores and it gives you cool little features on what you can do.
Well, I think we should probably start with getting the stats, base stats first, right?
We should do that. And how you do that, there's several different ways to do it. However, our personal favorite is rolling for your stats.
Mm-hmm. It adds a little flavor, adds a little bit of a sense of chaoticness to your characters. There's a method in the book where you can just basically move numbers around how you want it. We think it's a little bit more fun to do the rolling aspect. But it's like anything in D&D, it is up to your own personal discretion. So it really can change at any moment.
And that's as a side note, one of the best things about D&D, especially 5th edition, the game is so able to be homebrewed in your own specific fashion. It's like, when you played Monopoly, but there's like a rule in Monopoly that everyone, like if you like land on go, I don't think in the rules it actually is you get double money, but like everyone like usually plays that. It's like a house rule. You can do that in D&D. It is a tabletop game.
Yep.
You can add whatever house rules you want.
And the DM is basically, it's his game. So whatever rules he just says, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't really argue with him because, it's a dick move.
But then sometimes like,
but DM's not always right.
Yeah,
so
he's not always right, but also it's like, mutual respect amongst people. Hey, we're doing this now. Yeah, and it can end up being, it's fun nonetheless.
Exactly.
You're rolling dice and shooting the shit with friends at the end of the game.
Exactly.
So, as Brandon said before, you can just pick these standard arrays, as they're called in the book, I'm pretty sure. And they're basically like point buys. It makes it so everyone has like the same stats. So if you're a group that really likes to make sure everyone is like balanced and in check, you usually go with the arrays because they're nice and equal amongst everyone and no one's going to have something higher than the other. Whereas if you roll for stats, we think it's a lot more fun.
It can completely change how you want to play that character. For instance, I didn't even know what, for the current game actually.
Yeah?
My class was a rogue. He died before the actual stream started or whatever. But he was a rogue, and it was Mastermind Rogue with 5 wisdom. So that means he was very intelligent, but his ability to focus on anything was just horrible. So he'd have amazing plan, he'd have amazing thing, but he'd forget about it. Or he's talking about this one thing, forget about it. His attention was horrible.
A good side point is that an average for like any score is usually 10, whereas 5 is like half of that.
Significantly lower. Basically almost mentally handicapped.
Almost mentally handicapped.
Yeah. But I mean, it doesn't usually always be that low. Usually, that was a really bad roll.
That was a really bad roll.
And so usually stats, like you were saying, average about 10.
About 10, yeah.
And you can change them depending on what your class is. Say you're a fighter. You want to hit things. Your strength should be relatively high. So starting off at like 15 is pretty good. That's a +3 modifier.
Yeah.
And we'll go into modifiers as well because that's important.
Yes.
You'll learn, but we're just gonna do the stats for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So usually what you do whenever you roll for stats, if you aren't going to be doing an array, is you'll take 4d6. That is the 6-sided dice. Everyone is familiar with this. It's like in every game ever. You take 4 of them.
The normal dice, people would say.
Normal dice. But in this world, we call them d6s. You roll 4 of them, and then you take away the lowest. That was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And you'll take away
12.
the lowest one. So we had rolled a 6, a 3, a 3, and a 2.
Yep.
So you would take away the 2 and instead add up the 6, the 3, and the 3, and you get a 12. There's your first ability score.
Yep.
Just rinse and repeat for the rest of them, and that's how you make your character. So for this one, ooh, take away the 1, and we have a 3, 4, and a 3. Not
10.
the industry, just the total of 10. That was a Halo joke.
And we're gonna just do the stats right now. That was a pretty good roll.
That was very good.
So we can basically have a actual character built up, so we can actually go along and show you how it's done.
So a 6, 5, a 4, and a 4. Take away the 4, you get a total of 15. That's very good, actually.
Yeah, pretty good.
The best is, though, as you guys are thinking, probably like, well, how did he get a 5 that one time? Well, you can roll a 1, a 1.
I rolled 4 ones.
You rolled 4 1s?
Yeah, remember I was like, I didn't even want to roll. I didn't want to roll originally.
It's a 14, by the way.
So I just rolled. I was like, it'll be funny if I mess up. I got all ones.
Oh my god.
And then I was like, oh no, he's retarded.
Sorry.
But I had a lot of fun with him. He was a great character until he was brutally murdered by Zach.
It wasn't.
And I won't forget.
It wasn't
him for
brutally murdered. We can get into that after we make the character.
I don't hold grudges.
So a 14 and an 11 were the last 2.
14 and 11.
Yeah. And then, oh my god.
This man's a freaking beast.
So a 6, a 5, and a 3. Take away the 3.
So 17.
You get a 17. Wow. And that should be all of them, right? Yeah.
Yep, all 6.
So then you have 6. We stopped at 6, as you noticed. That's because if you notice, there's 6 ability scores that we had described before. So now you're like, oh, I have 6 ability scores. How do I arrange them? How do I arrange these numbers to my ability scores? Well, that usually goes by table, but usually when we make our characters, we allow people to assign them wherever they want.
Yep.
Other DMs will do stuff like you roll 46, take away the lowest, and that goes to your strength, and you do it all the way down. Once again, it's another house rule thing. It's however you want to do it.
Yep.
So,
depending on what your character is. And so,
Exactly.
what character are we making? What kind of class?
well, what do we want our character to be? And that's another thing you should be asking yourself through this whole process is, what kind of character do you want to make? Do you want to make a vicious elf bent on the wildlands of this fractured continent who has had to survive by himself for a while? Or perhaps you want to make a burly human that has served in the Empire and been a beacon of hope amongst the regular common folk for his whole service. You can do that. You can do any of these things, and you want to keep this character in mind throughout the
You
whole
could also be a
process.
homeless musician who tries to bang everything he sees.
That's also true. You can be as heroic or as debaucheristic as you want.
It's limited to you, and watch out.
Yeah, because remember, you are making a character, and it's actually a big thing that happens with first-time players is
They make joke characters.
they make joke characters, which is great.
Yeah, joke characters are fun, especially if it's a one-off. But eventually, if you're in a campaign you actually like, all of a sudden now your name is Buttkiss the Bard, and you're in a really serious situation.
I was
and
in a rough spot, okay?
Someone is crying over your dead body, going, "Buttkiss,
Forgot about that.
I'm gonna save you." But your name is Buttkiss, and no one can take you seriously.
That was my first. First character.
He was I wasn't even originally part of that, but then I joined it, and
Yeah. First characters are usually the worst, so don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Because
failures are all part of the game too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
It's if anything, failure makes life interesting. It's more fun.
Oh.
Natural ones can spice things up.
Oh, easily. When a character has, and that's a big thing when you're making your characters, think of flaws too, because think of all the characters that you've seen in like fantasy works. They're never perfect.
No.
There's never one thing about them that's like, oh my God, they're like the most perfect individual. Tony Stark is.
Yeah. Stan Lee specifically wanted to make Tony Stark unlikable. He said, I want to make a character that no one should like, but they will like.
Yeah.
He's an alcoholic. He's a narcissist. He doesn't care about anyone else but than himself, and he's the worst.
He's the absolute
But
worst.
they still love him.
Yeah.
They still love him. And that's exactly kind of what you should go for.
Yeah.
I think. That's a good character, in my opinion. Is
Yeah.
a well-rounded individual that has room to build. Especially if you want a genuine narrative that you are invested in.
Oh, yeah. Easily. And all of that usually stems from your ability scores.
Yeah, ability scores are a good building block, basically.
Perfect.
Yeah. So if you say something, oh wow, he's really charismatic, or he's really strong. Why is that? Who is he because of this? Where did all this come from?
Yeah.
In his backstory, usually.
Yeah.
And that all kind of stems from your backstory as
Yeah.
well. And we'll kind of go on that in a second as well.
So, we have our numbers ready to assign to our ability scores. What kind of character do we want to make?
Edgelord.
You want to make an edgelord?
Yeah.
All right. So, we want to make an edgelord, I guess.
I want this edgelord to be so edgy, it cuts everything.
All right. So, we will be making a super edgelord then. Granted, this isn't an everyday sort of character that you'll have.
No.
Oh,
But
definitely not.
You'll see it. You'll see all kind. People love being edgy, and it's to each his own.
Yeah,
So-
honestly. Edginess is like one of the things that people usually gravitate towards.
Yeah, because they go, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sasuke.
And there is a difference. We're not making Sasuke.
We are making Sasuke.
Okay, we're going to try and make Sasuke then. I've never seen Naruto. He's seen Naruto.
Oh yeah.
So, if we're trying to make, we'll not use the term edgy just because I don't like it that much.
Fine.
We're going to make him
Emo?
cool and slick
Okay.
and like dark, but also he's got a little bit of good in him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little, he had a dark past. He tries to not show his soft side, but deep down, he's a good guy.
He's been hardened by the events that have shaped him.
Exactly. And we're not going to have a whole amazing backstory.
No,
But
not yet.
what kind of race would this guy be?
Well, let's see. There's several routes we could go with a man hardened. We could easiest one is make him a human. Human's the race that usually everyone picks at their first time. You know, it's real easy. As a human, you get a +1 to all of your ability scores.
Which is really nice.
It's very nice. They're the only people that get that. And you get to learn a language of your choice. And that's pretty much it that humans get. Super easy to follow.
Yep.
You assign that. We could have our human just be part of a settlement, and he could have been, at a young age, wronged in some way. Perhaps all of his family died.
All of his family were
All
murdered.
of his family was murdered, and he's trying to get back at those people that did it, and he's been training for a while.
But it turns out it was his brother that did it.
It turns out it was his brother that did it,
Not his brother.
and that could be a human type thing.
Wow.
Another thing we could do is perhaps make a dwarf. Nice, short and stout man. Make him
Stouty dwarf.
a stouty dwarf. And make him, I don't know, he lives underground his whole life. We could say that some underground slavers took his family away from him and ripped him away as a child. But in his youth, he was whisked away by a merchant that had been trading with the slavers for a while and brought up by this merchant over the course of his childhood. And now he's looking to get back at those slavers in the underground city of blank.
Yeah,
That's something you can do.
for sure. You could be a half-orc. You could be a half-orc that doesn't necessarily like his brutish origins. He's not necessarily, I don't want to be a fighter. I was raised by good people. I was raised by wizards. I'm going to be a wizard half-orc who basically uses his hardy nature to basically protect those around him through magic. And you can do that. And so, what guy are we going with?
You know, I think if we're going to be going with some sort of like slick, cool, hardened by the events that shaped him sort of character, honestly, I think I'd go human.
I think human's good too.
I think human's a good one.
Yeah. And the cool thing about humans too is that they're very, very malleable. You can make them into basically anything. They don't even necessarily like, it could be anything, like I'm saying. Like it's up to you. So.
Yeah, the best part about the humans is if you look at them compared to the other races in the PHB, once again, this is all determines what kind of world you're playing in.
Yeah.
But typically, humans are the ones that kind of just like populate everything, and they're everywhere,
Yep.
and no one really knows what to do with them.
So yeah, in a lot of D&D universes, they're all the races are established and ancient, have lots of history, and to a lot of a lot of other races like elves and dwarves, they're basically like these rats, basically. They grow up and die like nothing and reproduce and swarm everything. You hate them because they're just cutting down all the trees. They're tearing into our mountains.
Those cities just keep getting bigger and bigger.
And you get to know one, they die a century later. It's not even worth them.
Exactly. It's like, what? But goddamn, those humans are geniuses. You know?
They get stuff done.
They get stuff done. So, as our human character, we add a +1 to all of our ability scores.
Wow.
So
That's
we
pretty
are
good.
first going to assign our ability scores as well. So with our cool, slick dude, he's probably going to be pretty stealthy, right? He's probably going to have to hide in the shadows.
Yeah, he doesn't want people seeing his face all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And he's trying to like stay undercover so that people don't know that he is still alive, because maybe in our backstory, people think that everyone died and that we're the only survivor.
Yeah, it's possible. Maybe that the shadows are the only thing that comfort him now. And no one knows his pain. No one. Anyway, we're going to add +1 to all these stats.
Yes.
We're gonna make his dexterity 18 because we rolled really high, 17.
It's true. So our man is incredibly stealthy, even for right away.
Yeah, even for normal
stealthy,
standards,
man.
he is extremely quick on his feet. And dexterity necessarily isn't even stealthy. It's how quick you are with your hands, how nimble you are. You can get out of situations that you don't necessarily want to be in.
He's probably had to be a little slippery in his days.
Yeah, someone try to grab him, he has to get out of there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that horny homeless musician's probably.
Yeah,
out there.
that horny gnome musician that we made earlier. He's out there somewhere.
Exactly.
Anyway, what would be our second ability score that we would put something into?
Well, our second highest is 16 right now.
16. Okay. You think that we would have to have the knack to talk our way out of some situations?
Yeah, I mean, he has that kind of ambiance of cool.
Yeah, he's really cool, and he wants people to know that.
Yeah, he doesn't even necessarily have to talk too much. He just kind of sits there.
And that man right there, that's a persuasive man. He's very cool. Just the way he's sitting in the corner like that with his hood up and you can't see his face, that man's very cool.
He's a troubled past.
He's a troubled past.
Someone should just give him a hug.
Honestly. Anyway, with that ability score, we'll be putting that in charisma, because we feel like also we want to have the wherewithal to be able to talk our way out of situations where we don't have to force our way out, because we're probably not going to be the strongest, but we could definitely be the most filled with guile.
For sure, yeah. And necessarily strength doesn't mean everything either, because you can do a lot of things with dexterity that someone with a big old hammer necessarily wouldn't be able to do.
Exactly.
It's heavy swinging that down. You go down and just stab them right in the ribs while they're swinging,
Precision over brute force.
For sure.
What about our third ability score? What do you think our third highest ability score is going to be?
Third highest right now is 15.
15?
Yeah.
What else would we need? You think we've probably grown resolute, right, in the face of adversity? We've probably grown stronger in both skin and mental prowess?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd build up calluses.
Yeah, we probably hit like a few bullies here and there, gotten punched in the alleyway a few times.
Oh, yeah.
Probably Constitution, then.
Constitution. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Constitution essentially determines your hit points. The hit points happens to be basically your life force.
Yes.
So you take damage, your pool goes away until you hit 0 and you go unconscious. And then eventually you can die.
Yep.
So we're going to make Constitution 16.
Of course.
And so that's a +3 to our modifiers?
Would be a +3. Quick tip on how to calculate your modifier. We said that when you have 6 ability scores, correct? Well, if you take the number of your total ability score, now get ready for some crazy math. Subtract 10 from it, and then divide that number by 2. That's your modifier.
Rounded down or up?
Rounded down. Yeah. It's not like it's pretty hard at first.
And also, you don't have to memorize that right away anyway.
No.
It's in the book.
It's in the book. Yeah.
So you don't have to. He knows this stuff because that's the way he learned it.
I'm obsessed with this.
Someone help him, please.
Please. Anyway, Constitution.
Constitution. He's a beefy boy.
He's a very beefy boy. But I also think that he has to be mentally strong too, right? Like,
yeah. You think he's school smarts, or do you think he's street smarts?
Oh, definitely street smarts.
Oh, yeah.
This man, if his whole family died, he probably doesn't have like, we don't have a strong education. We've had to learn our stuff the hard way. So wisdom is probably more our more powerful mental attribute in that regard.
Yeah. He's been around the block a few times.
We've definitely been around the block a few times. We know how to survive our way through different tasks, and we also know when people are bullshitting us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. For the last two, I think we'd honestly be more strong than we are intelligent.
You think strength?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think strength would be our next highest because, we probably had to lift some bearable weight here and there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then for intelligence,
above average. It's 11, so it's
above average.
It's not gonna be you're not gonna be a smart guy.
Yeah.
But you're a little bit smarter than your average guy.
Yeah, a little bit smarter than the average guy because 10's usually like the bare minimum for everyone. If you're below that, you're usually regarded as unintelligent regarding to the regular humanoid. Or if you're above that, you're like, oh, so that's why whenever you have a 20, which is the highest you could get in an ability score, asterisk, 20 usually means you are like renowned by people as like having incredible whatever your ability score is. Like people will know you for being incredibly smart, or that man, he bought me a beer once in a bar, and he was the most he opened my eyes to the wonders of the world. I'm a very charismatic person. Yeah. Or did you see that man over there just lift that boulder? Like you are known.
Essentially the peak of mortal ability. Really.
Yes.
So the strongest person around.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean you're the strongest thing ever, but by like human standards, you're like the mountain. You're the strongest man in Europe or whatever.
Yeah.
So
like you're incredibly strong, but not nearly as strong as, let's say, a fully grown dragon.
Yeah, or a T-Rex.
Or a giant.
Yeah, exactly.
But my God, you could probably go toe to toe with one.
For sure. Yeah.
So we have put our ability scores into our human character here. We know he's a human, and we know what he's good at. Now what we have to decide is what is his class, or rather, what kind of abilities does he have which define him?
I feel like he's really good in hand-to-hand combat.
Hand-to-hand combat?
Yeah, just really, because you're on the streets, you don't always have a knife on you.
It's a good point,
I think he's got to be able to just, use the energy that's built inside of him to release powerful bursts to subdue his enemies.
Yeah. Sort of a master of martial arts, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a class for that. A class can come in many shapes and sizes. There's a lot of different classes. Some of them have spell casting, which is something we won't be going over.
It's a whole different thing.
But some of them, most classes are designated into two separate things. You have your spellcasters and your martial classes. The martial guys kind of
beat things up
with weapons or fists or something of that caliber.
Yep.
Whereas the spellcasters
blow things up
or dominate the dragon to put it under its control.
Create illusions.
Open portals to different planes.
Yes. And that, to be fair, we kind of overly simplified martial classes. They're pretty great in a lot of aspects. Yeah. But spellcasting basically adds a whole other flavor essentially to it. So,
however,
it's how you play.
It's the most complicated, I would think, for new players.
Yeah, because you got to go over spells. There's a whole list of spells. We're not going to bore you with that detail.
Not at all. But for now, he's probably going to be a monk.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Now, maybe we don't want him to actually be like a regular monk, like people think of, sit on top of mountains and pray and stuff. We could maybe flavor him to be like a ninja kind of character.
Well, a ninja, you say?
Yeah.
Well, that sounds
I don't know why I would think ninja, but, because although the class says monk, or the class says barbarian, or warlock, or rogue, or any of these words, it doesn't mean that we're pigeonholed into that. Just because he's a monk doesn't mean when I hit people with my fist, I have to say I'm aiming for the pressure points. It could just be I'm socking them in the head.
Yeah.
You can flavor it however you want because the character is yours, and although the ability says something, It doesn't mean you have to flavor it that way.
Yep.
So, for a monk, we're just going to put them at, we'll say first level for now.
That's easy.
Because first level is a good bearing to get down with your character.
First level is probably like a everyday schmuck kind of guy. You know, like he's a newbie, he's a novice, he just got out of school basically.
Yeah.
And he wants to experience the world, and he has a few things under his belt, but he really doesn't know, and he has a lot of improvement. That's what level 1 really is.
Yeah.
And there's up all the way up to level 20. Level 20 is basically you're the best of all time, and people around the world come to you when there's a problem, and you fix it because you can. You have the tools to do it.
And the power and the wherewithal. Level 1, you're just like, I'm leaving my town now. It's like that one guy in Skyrim in Rorikstead who's like, I just want to get off my farm and become an adventurer. That's basically level 1.
Yeah.
You just started there. Or in Skyrim, when you like break out of Helgen because the dragon helps you.
Exactly.
You're level 1. You've just started. You are nothing yet. And sooner or later, you're going to become the Dragonborn.
Exactly.
Not D&D Dragonborn, the Dragonborn from Skyrim. Anyway, as a first level monk, we get a few abilities, all of which you can find in the PHP. The PHP sort of gives you a rundown on how to make your character, how to add stuff on top of the stuff you already have, because pretty much all you need before you make your class is you need your ability scores in your race.
Yeah.
And there's also like paragraphs in the PHP actually that tell you how to create your monk, what you can do, and pretty much, if you don't want to spend too much time, it gives you a rundown of the things you should just pick right away if you don't feel like spending much time. But we like spending time because we like our characters.
Yeah.
So,
Dedicated.
at first level as a monk, because levels range from 1 to 20, we get a few things as a monk. First off, we have hit points. That's something we have as a character.
Yep.
At first level, or as a monk rather, our hit dice is a D8. That's this dice right here. This little 8-sided one right here, this aquamarine color. A hit dice is basically, it determines how healthy you are. Obviously,
how many hits you can take.
How many hits you can take. So obviously, there's higher ones and lower ones. So a monk has a D8, a fighter has a D10, a 10-sided dice, and then the largest dice in the entire game, the barbarian has a D12.
Yeah. Squishiest guys have D6s, so that your wizard will have that sorcerer as well. Yeah. Basically, people that they spend more time learning than being big and strong, so they're kind of weaker physically.
Yeah. Which is funny to think of because you think of like a caster having a D6 hit die, and then the barbarian has this meaty D12, and it's just basically double of what the caster has. It's always funny to see like the numbers.
You have a barbarian with over 100 health, and you have a wizard with like 50.
Anyway, as a monk, we have a D8 hit die. Now, usually what happens is when you level up, you'll roll the dice, and you'll add your Constitution modifier. And that's what Constitution is used for. It's not really used for anything else like testing your strength or testing how charismatic you are. It's pretty much only used for health.
Well, it's health, and also like say you ingested some poison or something and you're trying to shrug it off. It's more like how hardy you are as an individual, like your body aspect, not mentally or even strength necessarily, just how well you can withstand something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's a few things, but it's not the most used ability, but it's important nonetheless.
It's very important because having a lot of hit points, pretty good. That means you can take a few more hits than you normally could.
Especially if you're a monk and you're up in people's face beating the crap out of them.
Exactly. And that's why you'll notice, as we said, there's spellcasters and martial classes. The martial classes tend to have higher hit dice because they are always up in front fighting stuff.
Yep.
So you take a lot more hits. So that could be the difference. If you really like being like a tanky dude and not really being like, oh, that thing hit me, I am almost dead now, martial class is the way to go.
Yep.
So as the monk, usually when we level up, we roll the dice and we add our Constitution modifier. At first level, we don't do that.
Automatically max, because we want to basically make it fun for people so they don't have 3 health at the beginning of it. That's going to basically get killed by anything right away.
Oh yes, because it would suck if I rolled this and it ended up being a 1.
Yep.
And let's say our Constitution modifier is what? +2?
+2.
We would have 3 health at level 1. That's not very fun.
No.
So instead, we max it to an 8 because it's a D8 hit die, and
Add our constitution.
Add
So
our
we
constitution.
have 10 health right now.
10 health, yeah. 10 hit points, which seems like a little bit, but we're level 1.
We're level 1.
We just got off our farm.
Yeah, you're going to punch some goblins in the face, show them who's boss. You're not
Yeah.
fighting any dragons.
Yes. If you fought a dragon, that's when you run.
Yeah, you see a dragon level 1, stay away.
Just run.
Unless it's a nice dragon, then say what's up.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll give you some gold or something. We don't
Yeah,
know.
you know. Nice dragons are hard to come by in this, in this economy.
In this economy.
It's horrible.
They're all out
man.
of work.
Yeah, they're all at work. They're just grubbing in their hordes, you know.
I blame the dwarves.
I blame the dwarves as well. Anyway. We have that, our hit points down, and that's pretty much the easiest thing. As you level up, you just keep rolling. But then we have proficiencies. Proficiencies is how 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons made everything simple. Basically, as you level up, you have a proficiency bonus. It starts out as a +2, and then every 4 levels, so levels 1 through 4, and then 5 through, 5 through 8, it's like, it goes up by 1 each time.
Level 2, right? It's +2 right now?
+2 right now. And that, basically, anything you are proficient in, we're going to be adding our proficiency bonus to. That's pretty much all you have to know. It's that one number that you have. So keep that in mind as we go through this. As a monk, we are proficient in simple weapons, which are anything ranging from a pitchfork to a club or a dagger or like a short bow or a crossbow. Anything that is something that
Requires skill.
yeah, a little bit of skill.
So like a long blade or a long bow or...
that is a martial weapon.
Exactly.
Yes. Simple weapons are something that you think a farm guy could use pretty well.
Your average Joe could pick up and swing around.
Yes.
You're-
Just swing it up.
Your farmer's not going to pick up a great sword and be killing a bunch
or
of
a
people with
huge axe.
it. Yeah.
So as a monk, we're proficient in simple weapons. It makes sense.
Yeah. Simple weapons and eventually your fists.
Yes.
We throw hands.
Yes. We use staffs, but most importantly, we punch people.
Yeah.
We're also proficient with short swords. That's a cute little thing.
Yeah.
So little short stabby swords. I like to think of short swords as Carl Tanner from Game of Thrones. He has those 2 blades that look like knives, but they're a little bit longer.
A little bit longer.
Yeah.
The legend
The legend
of Jin Alley.
Carl Tanner of Jin Alley. God rest his soul. Anyway.
It was the worst.
So, since we're proficient in simple weapons and short swords, if we make an attack roll with them, we add our proficiency bonus with it.
Proficiency and dexterity, correct?
Yes. Because, so weapon attacks in 5th edition work a special little way. Not too hard to memorize. So let's say I'm a monk, and let's say I'm using a club. That club is pretty hard to swing around. It requires more brute strength to swing. So I will use my strength modifier, which again is 10 minus your strength score minus 10, and then divide that by 2, which for our monk, it's a +4. And then we'd add our proficiency bonus because it's a simple weapon and we're proficient with it. And that is how you have to roll to hit. So you'll roll the d20. We add 4 from our strength and 2 from our proficiency bonus. And we rolled a 3 on the dice, which is horrible, for a total of 9.
Not going to hit many things.
Not going to hit many things. But, you know, we're first level. Shit happens.
Yeah, it's okay. And you're a monk, so one of your first things you get is what's it called again?
It's called martial arts.
Martial arts.
Literally.
So you get a whole bunch of attacks.
Yeah.
So about 3 attacks level 1. So you're throwing hands.
You are throwing many hands. Everyone else is sitting there like, oh, I gotta swing my sword once per turn. As you as the monk, you're like, no, punch, 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 punch. It's totally like a kung fu movie.
I think I might have been mistaken. I think it's only 2 attacks because it's 1 attack, then bonus action attack, right?
Yeah, but at second level, you get more, and we'll get to that. So yeah, the other thing is, as a monk, you're also proficient in some tools. And once again, you add your proficiency bonus whenever you're proficient in something. As a monk, you get to choose one type of artisan tool. This can range anywhere from brewer's supplies to leatherworker tools, or even smithing tools. pretty much anything that an average common guy does, like a cobbler, you could do that. And then you're also proficient in a musical instrument of your choice, which can be anything. The player's handbook gives you some examples, like a guitar or a flute.
Bongo drums.
Bongo drums. I don't think it gives that, but once again,
Bongo drums.
bongo drums.
Bongo.
Bongos. You can pick any instrument, including bongo drums.
We're sponsored by Bongo drums.
I hope we are. Please sponsor us, bongo drums. Anyway, so whenever you make a check, the DM asks you to like make a performance check, say with your instrument that you're using. You'll roll one of the ability scores the DM tells you, take that modifier, and add your proficiency bonus because you're proficient with that tool. And that's pretty much how proficiency works. Getting into saving throws as well. As a monk, we're proficient in strength and dexterity saving throws. And you're probably asking, well, what's a saving throw? Well, saving throws kind of dictate how easily you can avoid usually dangerous things.
Yes. So, like, dexterity saving throw might require to be used when a dragon launches its fiery breath at you and you want to jump out of the way.
Yeah.
That would be an example of a saving throw.
Yeah.
So,
And another thing could be, let's say you imbibe a terrible toxin and you're trying to ward off the poison. That'd be a Constitution saving throw to try and ward off it. And pretty much all saving throw is you roll the d20 once again, and let's say it calls for a dexterity saving throw. We roll the d20, we rolled a 15 on the dice, we add our dexterity now.
and a proficiency as well, right?
Yes, because as a monk, we're proficient in them, which means we add our
Proficiency modifier.
boom. There you go. That's how proficiency works. It's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. After a bit, you'll be kind of frustrated with it. I've noticed some new players usually being frustrated with it.
There are a few numbers you have to add up. Once you get the hang of what you normally do, say you're a monk, you're going to be mainly dealing with your dexterity.
Yeah.
So I want to punch this guy in the face. I roll a d20. You know your dex and you know your proficiency. You just add that to the dice and you're set.
Yep.
I see some people overcomplicating it sometimes. They roll it and they're like, wait, what do I add again?
Yeah. A good thing to do is write down your total bonus and put it on the paper, because then you roll this dice.
Usually there's
and
a
you
spot.
add that number.
Yeah. Usually there's a spot on the sheet to indicate where it is.
Pretty much.
You just write right there. It's usually pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's really only overdone if you overthink it.
I think when people overthink it, it's because it's their first time playing D&D.
Exactly.
And there's a million things running through their head. But I think if you write down that number, it'll help
It's
out
not
a
too
lot.
hard.
Because then
It's
you're
really
like,
not.
I look at the same thing on the sheet.
Yeah, exactly.
And those are our saving throws, strength and dex as a monk. So that means it's really easy for us to avoid things that are going to push us back, or things that are going to test our dexterity. We're pretty good at that because, as a monk, we're a mountain. If we choose to be, if you want to go that route. Also, we pick 2 skills as a monk. Each class gives you a list of skills you can pick from. So for a monk, you get to pick from acrobatics, athletics, history, insight, religion, or stealth. And we get 2 of them. So a skill is sort of a subset of an ability check. An ability check is when you roll the d20, and you could get a natural 20, like so, and you add the ability modifier that you have.
Yeah. Usually the ability scores essentially affect these skills because everyone's not great at telling a lie. But some people are better at persuading than necessarily telling a lie.
Yeah.
Some people are more perceptive, but some people don't know about medicine. And some of these things are connected to the same ability score, but they're not the same thing.
Yeah.
So it adds more specificity to it, basically.
Yeah.
And basically allows you to be more more specific in everyday situations.
Yeah, so for instance, in dexterity, there are 3 skill checks that you can make under dexterity. There's sleight of hand, stealth, and acrobatics. Now, you could be proficient in acrobatics checks. Let's say that you were like the first Robin, like you were going around being an acrobat in your time, but you never really had to stick to the shadows that much. So you're really good at acrobatics, you're naturally good at stealth, but you're proficient in acrobatics, meaning you're even better at it than you normally would be. So for our monk, we get to pick 2, and usually these skills tie into our backstory, basically. We get to pick from acrobatics, once again, athletics, history, insight, religion, or stealth. Now, I, for one, think that the way we're kind of going with this character, stealth is probably going to be up.
Stealth is a must.
Yeah, stealth is easily a must. We're going to be sneaking in the shadows, trying to stay out of people. And then I think following it up with probably acrobatics might be nice as well.
Yeah, we want to kind of get away with people when they try to like tackle us.
Yeah, when they try and tackle us down, or we're getting roughed up in the alleyway, we want to be able to get out of there because we don't want to fight everyone. We can't take on the world.
No.
Yet. But
wait till I lock my shotgun gun.
Oh God, it's begun. Anyway, that's pretty much all you do for the base class, and then you get cool abilities. Now, as a monk at first level, you get two main things. You get unarmored defense.
That's good.
And martial arts. With unarmored defense, you don't need armor.
Who needs that?
Who needs that?
You're quick.
The other martial classes need that. I don't need that. Who needs that? Because, as a monk, or whatever, just the class is the monk, but as this class, we are pretty good at seeing everything around us.
Yeah, we're aware of our surroundings.
We're aware of our surroundings. And
we've been in a few fights, too.
Oh, yeah. And our instincts have basically kicked up to bring us where we are now. So, as a monk, we have an AC. As any character, you have an AC.
Which just stands for armor class, correct?
Yeah, armor class. Which, before we talked to you guys about making attack rolls, rolling the d20, adding your proficiency bonus if you're proficient with the weapon, and your relevant modifier. That number that you roll has to be equal to or above something's AC for you to hit it. That's how attack rolls hit.
Yep.
And basically, as a monk, or as any character really, everyone has an AC. It starts out as 10, plus your dexterity modifier, and then you can get armors and such, like studded leather, or splint mail, or full plate, and they all affect your AC in different ways. However, as a monk, we don't have to worry about that.
Nah, we don't need it.
No, because who does?
Punks use armor.
Punks use armor.
Punks.
And we're not a punk.
Not a punk.
We're not a punk.
Punk.
As a monk, our AC is going to be equal
monk.
10 plus our dexterity modifier. And then on top of that, we also add our wisdom modifier.
Yeah, and that makes sense because monks have been around the block. They fight people all the time. They know how people fight.
We know where everything is.
Yeah.
And we know the guy breathing behind us and the man in front of us, and we know how to get away from it. And we know if they're going to try
armor
to hit
would
us.
just weigh you down.
Oh,
That's no point of it.
No, why would we have armor? It's just going to weigh us down. If we're trying to swim or something, we can't swim if we're in clunky armor, and we can't skulk around if we're in clunky armor. Nah. So that's our armored defense. And then our other ability is called martial arts, as we hinted at before. Martial arts does a lot of things.
It does.
So one of the first things that we should get into is with unarmored defense, or with martial arts and unarmed strikes, which better way to put it is your fist.
Thrown hands.
Or your elbow.
Any part of your body you can hit someone with.
Yeah. You could headbutt someone with your unarmed strike.
You kick them in the face. Do whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want. That's an unarmed strike. Everyone is proficient with their unarmed strikes because everyone knows how to use their fists.
Some people know how to do it better. You try to fight a UFC fighter, you never fought someone in your life, you're gonna get your ass beat.
Oh, yeah. Because monks, usually an unarmed strike is strictly, you don't roll any dice when you deal damage with it. If I hit someone with my attack roll with my unarmed strike, it's usually 1 plus my strength modifier. Ain't that way with monks. As a monk, whenever we're making an unarmed strike, we instead roll a d4, or which is otherwise known as the caltrop, because it looks like this.
Basically, way worse than any Lego you're gonna step on.
Oh, it's the worst Lego.
It'll go through your foot.
It is pointy, and this is a metal dice.
That's a metal dice. That'll.
I could pop a tire.
Yeah, I'd say so. Honestly.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It's very rough.
Yeah.
Anyway, whenever we hit someone with our strike, we roll a d4 instead of a 1, so we could still roll a 1.
Yeah.
Or we could roll a 4, which is 3 more than the regular thing.
Yep.
We are better at puncturing things than anyone else is.
Yeah. And as you level up too, your damage as well increases as a monk.
It does.
So as you go up, it'll be eventually a d6, then a d8,
yeah,
then a d10.
Then a d10.
Yeah.
And then that's when your punches are hitting really tough, because if you look in the back of the PHP, there's a weapons table, and a d10 is about the same damage as wielding a two-handed longsword. So a high-level monk is punching longswords.
Yes.
That's terrifying.
Punching like he has swords attached to his hands.
But he's not. Those are just his hands.
This man knows how to throw hands.
Oh, that high level monk, but we're still level 1.
We're level 1. We know how to punch better than your average Joe.
Oh yeah,
it hurts.
Easily.
It hurts when we hit him, but.
And you want to know something better about our punches?
What?
We don't have to use our strength for our attack rolls with them.
What?
Yeah. You know how usually you just brute force strength stuff? Not us. Wow. Because we don't really need that. We can find people's pressure points. We can hit them just right. We can use our dexterity to be more precise with our punches.
That's good.
Which is even better.
Yeah, being quick is great.
Being quick is amazing. And that's really strong because if you think of it, strength is pretty much just damage. But if dexterity also applies to our armor class. So we're using the same thing that we use for our armor class with our attack rolls and our damage rolls. Because when you roll for damage, you also add your relevant modifier.
Gotcha.
So we'd roll, let's say we hit with our monk at first level. We'd roll a d4.
4.
We rolled a 4 on the dice, and we add our dexterity modifier.
6 damage.
6 damage.
6 damage, that would knock out a normal wizard.
Oh, yeah.
Who has no addition to his constitution.
Oh, easily.
Knocks him out cold.
Knocks them out cold first level. They're gone. And you want to know something even better about our punches?
What?
So, first off, there's things called bonus actions, right?
Yeah.
In a turn in combat, you have an action, a bonus action in your movement. Usually, no one uses their bonus action for anything because you can only attack as an action.
Yeah.
But as a monk, if we hit someone or just plainly make an unarmed strike on our turn, we can use our bonus action to make an unarmed strike.
A bonus action?
A bonus action. Not only are our punches stronger than the average man, we get more of them.
What?
We get more attacks than everyone else. That's awesome.
That's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage. Stab it right into the whatever the thing was.
The boat?
Yeah, the boat. That's what it was.
It was a boat. Flex Seal, sponsor us.
Flex Seal, please sponsor us. Anyway, that's what martial arts does for us. We just judo everyone down, or you can flavor it as you're a seasoned tavern brawler and know just where to hit people.
Yep.
There's so many different things you can do with this ability. It is called martial arts. Doesn't mean you have to be Asian inspired or anything like that. You can flavor it however you want.
And as you level up too, when you hit level 3, there's more specific subclasses essentially that determine how your fighting style is.
Yeah.
There's in the newer books that release, there's a drunken master.
Yeah. You could be a monk that gets drunk and uses that as his fighting style in order to get through.
There's all kinds of different monks. There's shadow monks who basically understand how the way the shadows work. They can stealth essentially and teleport across the battlefield through shadow.
Yeah.
All kinds of different things. Way of the open hand, where basically they do the Kill Bill 5 seal and kill people.
Oh yeah.
Downright, outright.
Oh yeah.
So.
And that's the best thing about classes, right? Is usually at 3rd level. Some classes it comes earlier, but you have a subclass associated with your class. So just because I'm a monk doesn't mean if the man sitting at my table is also a monk, doesn't mean we're basically the same thing.
Yep.
Because I could be a shadow monk, like you said, and I could be sticking to the shadows and making sure I'm stealthed and waiting for that time to strike. Whereas he could be, like you said, a drunken master, and he just wades into battle, no stealth at all, just swinging at people drunkenly, slurring, and shouting expletives at the top of his lungs.
You can be your uncle at the cookout.
You could be Uncle Dave at the cookout.
We miss you.
Please come back to the family, Dave. Anyway, that's our 1st level monk. We have those abilities. We have our ability scores.
But what about a background?
That's true. We've made our skeleton for our character, and we have a loose idea of our backstory and such, but we don't really have that on paper yet. We know that our whole family died, of course.
Yes.
And our brother was the one that did it. Mm-hmm. So how do we show that in game? And how do I get started on a character's backstory? And how do I develop this person? A wonderful place to start for people that don't know these answers right away on how to make a backstory for a character is in the PHP. There's a little section in Chapter 4 called Personality and Backgrounds. And in there, you're going to find backgrounds for your character. Backgrounds are sort of a easy way for characters to first get into the game. They give different names for the backgrounds. And so, for instance, the first one is Acolyte, which means that you've spent years in service to a deity, a god, or a symbol. It could even be a cult if you want. You could be an acolyte in a cult. And that serves as your backstory. And then it goes into detail talking about this. You get some features, like one of them is Shelter of the Faithful, which basically says if you have like ties to a certain deity or a cult, depending on which way you play this character, you could go to a place where that is worshipped and be welcomed with open arms. They'll give you food and water should you want it. And it kind of goes through that. And then if you're having troubles thinking of, well, how's my character going to interact with other characters? You have this whole section which gives you 4 tables, which are famous across all character sheets. You have your personality trait, your ideal, your bond, and your flaw. All 4 of these tables sort of set your character up in the world. Personality trait gives you a cool, quirky thing. Like, for instance, I've spent so long in a temple that I have little practical experience dealing with people in the outside world. You could be a hermit acolyte. Or let's say you wanted your ideal then. Your ideal sort of signifies your main morals and where you stand. So it could be power, which is, I hope to one day rise to the top of my faith's religious hierarchy. Ambitious and cutthroat to the top. A bond is usually something that gives your character, as we call them, knives in a backstory.
Yep.
Which, a knife, if you will, is something that a character puts in their backstory so that the DM or dungeon master can politely and lovingly put the knife into their back later in the story.
Yep. Like every other normal human being, characters have tragic and terrible lives. And basically, it makes a way more enjoyable story because there's things going on. You're more involved with the story, the narrative that's being played. You feel like your character has been an impact in the world. So say this character, his brother killed his whole family. Now there's a void in his village where the family used to be, and so people treat him differently because he's an outcast now.
Yeah.
No one knows who he is. Or now he's got to chase down his brother and find him. But his brother may be now part of an evil group trying to bring about destruction and pain.
And pain. And he might join a snake cult at some point or something like that.
Snake cult, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But that would be his bond. His brother is his bond. I have a brother in a distant land that betrayed my family. That'd be a good bond to have. Doesn't have to be a good bond. It could be a good bond and say, oh, I have for lack of a better thing, I have a girlfriend in this town that I love and cherish so much.
Oh.
And that's when the DM goes, okay, awesome. I now have blackmail.
Yeah. Or now your girlfriend got captured, and now goblins are holding her for ransom, and they're going to kill her if you don't do something. It basically gives you an incentive to even care about the world.
Yeah.
And that's some people don't really care about.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're invested in the story, that's what you really worry about.
Vulnerability is a great trait to have in a character.
Oh, yeah.
It leads to development and everything. Mm-hmm. But speaking of vulnerability, the last section in a character's traits is a flaw.
Flaws.
Because no one's flawless. Let's be real.
Nah.
Not even Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, as a flaw though, it can be anything really. Like, let's say, like for this character, our flaw could be we are untrusting of everyone because we've been like by ourselves. Or my brother killed my family, and I don't have really anyone to turn to.
Yeah.
Why should I trust anyone?
People have been treating me like trash since day one.
Yeah.
I don't trust any of these people.
Yeah, and that could translate into the character where being with the party, they could just be cold and distant the whole time from the party and try and not be anything associated with them until maybe as you develop as a character, which flaws help you do, maybe your character starts getting a soft, warm spot for the party as the whole campaign goes along.
Yeah, and that really adds like some humanity to the whole game too, because you start realizing, wow, I actually do care, and these people that I've been adventure party with, they're my closest friends, and they're my new family. I don't need my family anymore.
Don't need them anymore until you find out that your brother was the one that killed your family.
Yeah, then you find out that it was actually the village, and you have to kill everyone in your village. Spoiler alerts, by the way.
I'm glad I never seen Naruto, or never intend to.
Don't watch it.
Okay. But also a cool thing.
Watch it, I don't care.
A cool thing that happens with backgrounds though is besides this cool character stuff, it also gives you real stuff on your character sheet.
Wow.
Yeah. So for instance, if we keep with the acolyte background, you get 2 skill proficiencies with it. We also become proficient in insight and relation. because as either a cult or a worshiper of a deity, we know a little bit about religion.
Yeah.
And we've had to deal with people's bullshit before.
For sure.
Whether it's being in a cult and seeing if Joe over there wants to stab me, actually, to serve our patron.
I hate Joe. The guy's always shanking people.
God, he's the worst cult person ever, man.
I know. He always hangs out in the alleyway, tries to bang people.
I know.
He plays the guitar all the time, and I'm like, stop.
Yeah,
I'm
he's like
trying
a really short, like, I think he's a bard.
I think. He says he is.
Oh, he's that bard again.
Ah, I hate
Joe,
that guy.
Joe the bard. Man. Anyway, but, you know, you got to have that insight. And then also, part of this is you get 2 languages of your choice because you're an acolyte. You've been around the block. You've seen several things.
All kinds of different people in your cult.
Yeah.
They speak all kinds of different languages.
Yeah, you got to know different languages, right? So
Old Joey speaks Draconic or something.
yeah,
We
he
don't know
speaks
why.
the language of dragons.
He keeps insisting he's banged a dragon before, and I don't believe
I don't believe him either. He's kind of persuasive. Sometimes I believe him.
Sometimes it seems like he's telling the truth, but
Yeah.
I can't believe him.
I can't believe him either sometimes.
Yeah, he's the worst.
Honestly. When is he going to get kicked out?
I don't know. He might be a sacrifice soon. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll ask
join our
Clausen.
cult, by the way.
Yes.
Cult to Bearcast Media.
Yes.
We have sacrifices every Thursday.
It's true. To Brendan Mitchell, actually.
All hail.
All hail.
Thanks, guys.
All right. So that's pretty much what our background does. We also get some equipment, like a holy symbol, a prayer book, 5 sticks of incense, stuff that makes sense. Usually this part people kind of gloss over because usually the DM allows you to have any equipment within the realms of reason for your starting character.
Yeah.
Like for instance, this doesn't say that I start with a journal, but let's say that I wanted my character to have a journal. Your DM you could ask your DM and they'd be like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. Yeah. And so we've made our background and such, and now we have to flesh out the remaining parts of our character, which include a few things. Like, for instance, alignment.
Yeah, that's important. It's a basic character flaw or trait, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Basically, it kind of determines your course of action.
Yeah.
So say you're chaotic evil, like probably Joe is, because I hate that guy. Guy's chaotic evil.
Oh, easily.
I don't trust him.
Yeah.
But he does things basically the most selfish way possible. He sees a poor lady on the street who needs assistance. He doesn't go help her. He robs that bitch. He doesn't care.
Oh, doesn't care at all. It's Joe.
Or lawful good. He'll find that lady, lead her to her family, help her out any way she needs, or chaotic neutral. Come up and just throw a fish in that lady's face. Why not?
But then also turn around and say, wait a second, I know you. You want some 10 gold and give her 10 gold as well and walk away.
If you're chaotic good, yeah.
Yeah. There's the alignment usually comes in 9 different blocks, and it's usually like on a spectrum. Usually it's shown in like a block.
Yeah.
Like 9, 3 on top, 3 in the middle, 3 in the bottom.
Yeah.
And it usually goes from law over here and chaos over here, and then good up top and evil below.
Yeah.
So you can have any combination of those. The one in the middle, though, is true neutral.
Yeah, you're just all out for yourself, right?
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So basically, that's honestly true neutral might be what our guy is. I feel like he doesn't really care about anyone else. He's focused on his goal. Everyone else can piss off.
He doesn't really have any laws that he follows for his own code of conduct.
No, he's doing whatever it takes to essentially get the job done, and he doesn't really care as
And
long
he's
as it
not
benefits him.
necessarily doing it for a greater good or
Evil necessarily.
or evilness.
He really just wants to get revenge, honestly, probably.
Just straight up revenge. It's definitely true neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's only not really bound by any dogma nor chaotic impulse.
He's just there doing his job.
Yeah. So we now have our alignment for our character. You think there's anything else we need to flesh out for our character?
Nothing really on the sheet. I'd say only thing left is for the individual player to just write the backstory. And that the backstory is an important piece of literature that basically determines what actually happened in your character's backstory, specifics. So what was some people's names? What was your mom's name? What was that girlfriend's name? What's your brother's name? Where they live? What do they do every so often? Like what are their hobbies? And you really have to go in depth as much as you want. Some people, murder hobos particularly, people that don't really play the game for the story, more just want to kill things, constantly kill and loot, kill and loot, kill and loot.
Diablo.
Diablo, yeah, but in D&D sense. But the backstory is up to you, up to the player, and it really helps the DM build the world. And the DM actually, you'll find, appreciates a good, well-written backstory that's full of information, because they have a world set up, but it's more of a skeleton. They want to have you add some muscle and skin onto that to have a weird little meat puppet of a story going on.
It's true, because although the DM makes the skeleton for the world, it needs some places here and there to fill out, and to make it feel more personalized. A backstory really helps that, because when you write that backstory, you'll get way more out of the game, because the DM will implement what you put in your backstory into the world, and you will play that.
And you'll find too, in a lot of games, if you're playing amongst a lot of friends, you'll have kind of stories that intertwine, actually. Even different campaigns. Like right now amongst our friends, there's a book, like the Sword Coast, which is the 5e actual lore.
Yeah, it's like the first Dungeons and Dragons world that was fleshed out.
Yeah, and right now we essentially have our own kind of world there, where we have references to characters that we played in the past, or things that happened. It's like, oh, that's a cool little neat reference to when we played that other game a couple weeks ago, or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really neat too when you find that. It's almost meaningful too, and I really appreciate that. And the players appreciate that, especially if you're a DM and you want to spice it up, have a little meat to your world stew.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Because it's awesome when you write that backstory, and let's say for this character specifically, and our backstory, usually the backstories lead up to where the DM starts the campaign. So let's say our campaign starts in a port city. We could write on how we met a sailor, and we became great friends with him, and he taught us so much stuff. And let's say we start in this port city, and later on in the campaign, the party has to find a way to get over to a distant island. And our character comes up and says, I know a man. And it's really cool to go there as the character and say, hey, I remember you, how's it been? And you actually have you feel like you brought something to the table and put something in the game.
Exactly. And it's great. It makes it meaningful. And I really appreciate that. And it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's up to you. Again, you could write a couple sentences. My character was a blacksmith. Okay, and then he's a blacksmith, and he makes his own weapons, so he started to fight.
Yeah, you get out what you put in.
Exactly, and that's most of D&D. You get out what you put in, and you can make a wonderful game that everyone enjoys, and all your friends just are really invested and love it. Or you have a game where people just come over and hang out, and we'll just kill some stuff, and that's it.
Yep.
And people enjoy the games different ways, and it's perfectly valid. It's how you want to play.
Completely agree. That's what makes the game so great.
For sure.
Pretty much whatever you want. And that'd be our monk. There's only one last thing to do. What's his name?
Kazke.
All right.
Buchiha.
Yeah. Does he play the bongos?
Yeah, he's proficient.
That's his musical instrument.
Yeah. And just another kind of wrap up or whatever, bring it back up again. We're not always going to be doing D&D talking on this show. What we really want to do is bring this, like I said before probably, bring in the community. So if you're part of a club, you love something a lot, you get excited about it. We are very, very energized by people and love something. If you know about it, you love it, come on, talk to us. We'll figure out a way to communicate, most likely make a channel or a email or something.
Yeah.
Probably the easiest way. Or we're probably making a Twitter account soon. So follow that, shoot us a tweet. For the most part, that's what we want to do. So as much things as possible. We want to make this fun for everyone, not just D&D nerds, not just...
Every kind of nerd.
You can nerd out about anything, sports, video games, movies, everything. And that's what I want it to be.
Oh, yeah.
I want everyone to just love what they're doing.
Exactly.
Because we do. It's fun to be, it's better to be enthusiastic about something.
Yeah, and it's fun to watch other people be enthusiastic about it, and then watch them get really excited about the things that they love.
You see someone that's excited, and you're like, hell yeah, that person loves this, and I'm pumped for them. I'm glad they're doing good. I'm happy.
And it's great to hear about it because it's something that you haven't experienced the way that they have, and you get their side of the story, and it's so interesting to, for instance, if anyone has watched any relevant person in science talk about something that they love, like talking Elon Musk or someone talking about space.
The way Elon Musk talks about Mars is the way I want anyone to talk to me. Slightly seductive and full of memes.
I agree. completely.
Yes. Thanks again for watching. You can find this basically every other week. We should be doing this. If you want to come in contact with us, we're going to be making an email account, and also follow us on social media at Btv D&D or Btv Nerd Night. So,
yeah, and also remember, you can keep checking us out on YouTube on Bearcast Media. Make sure to subscribe. You'll get updates on all our most current videos, as well as our BTV D&D Creator Chronicles Fracture. It is the D&D campaign, which we run, every other Friday or so. It's really good. You should check it out with me as the DM and some lovely characters such as Arthur Ashenhurst.
Best.
And also, once again, a special thanks to our producers, Brendan Mitchell, as well as Mike Maisel, and our floor director, Jake Luby.
they make this stuff happen.
They make it happen, and they make it wonderful for all of us.
Also, shout out to Bearcast Media. Meetings are at 6:30 on Thursdays usually. So, head on to that if you're interested in anything like this.
Yeah. And once again, thank you for watching. Couldn't do it without you.
Hell yeah.
See you later.